Waymo is testing its self-driving minivans with real people. Netflix is getting into China. And the makers of an app that made everyone white is very, very sorry. All that and a whole lot more coming up on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1754, recorded Tuesday, April 25th, 2017.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Box.com, bringing people and ideas together so businesses can work as one. 71,000 companies, including the majority of the Fortune 500, are already on Box. For a free 2-week trial and to find out more, visit Box.com. Hello, welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we tell you everything you need to know about technology and all the reasons that it matters. I am Megan Maroney.
And I'm Jason Howell. You know what really matters?
That you haven't yet broken your new phone. I
have not yet broken the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus that I got a mere 24 hours ago. However, I do have a scratch on it.
What?
Already I have a dang scratch on this thing.
What? Did you throw it across the room?
No, I've been super careful with it. Oh, you can't see it in this camera. I doubt you'll be able to see it in this. No, you can't see it in this camera. It's just all blurry when you do digital zoom. But I guarantee you, it's there. It's right down there. And I did not abuse this phone in any way. I've been setting it down like, if you go to the wide shot, this is me about every time that I set my phone down on the table. Go to the wide shot, Brian. Go to the wide shot. Oh, I see. Berg is getting very fancy. This is me every time I put the phone down on the table. There. That's an example. And that is not that's exactly how it is every single time. Yet there's still a scratch on it. Doesn't that bug you? Or does it bug you when you scratch your phone?
Well, it does bug me. I have a scratch on my iPhone, but I've had it for almost a year, so
you just get used to it.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. The whole dang thing is made of glass, so of course this is going to happen. I need to get a case on this thing before I break it.
Well, you'll get a new phone in like 3 months, so.
That's true. I do work here,
and
I do get a new phone like every 3 months. It's the way it goes.
Shall we?
Yeah.
Waymo wants you. If you live in the Phoenix area, you can now apply to be part of a self-driving car testing program from Waymo, which was formerly Google's driverless car program and is now under the Alphabet umbrella. In a post on Medium, Waymo CEO John Kravchik describes Ted, Candace, and their 4 kids as happy customers of the testing program as they are ferried from school to soccer practice to student council, choir rehearsal, and more. They have access to the service whenever they want, wherever they are, wherever they want to go within an area twice the size of San Francisco. That's the Phoenix general area.
Dang.
I am moving to Phoenix right now. I think we can do this show from Skype from now on, don't you think?
I think we have to if they're giving out free rides for the rest. For how long? The rest of their lives?
I don't know.
Did they win some sort of contest?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
Candace
probably
looks
not.
super happy. Her whole family does.
It's like your own personal concierge service.
Yeah.
Really.
My kids already have that. It's me, but, or mostly it's my husband right now. Because, to be honest, this is when the driving happens. So I shouldn't be complaining because my self-driving husband is now ferrying my kids to wherever they need to be going. But this is pretty great. It's Fiat Chrysler Pacifica minivans. And if you want to apply, go to waymo.com/apply. A Waymo test driver is also in the car
all right.
At all times. I'm not sure if you can just pile your kids in there and be like, bye, or if Candace has to go with them. Candace or
that's a good question. I mean, that's a big part of this being super useful. But their kids are a little bit older, so I'm sure that they could probably do that with at least some of them. They also said that they're increasing the fleet from 100 minivans to 600 minivans starting today, so they're boosting it a bunch. And it just kind of got me thinking about how similar this really is to how Google treats its online services, which are also free, brings people in kind of into the service, into the fold with free stuff in exchange for valuable data, valuable information. In this case, of course, direct feedback from the people who are using it, how they would utilize an autonomous fleet, what kinds of requests they have, destinations, the complications that will arise. Super valuable stuff for Google as it builds out Waymo. And not only that, the people that are doing this get really used to the idea of this being their reality in the future, and they become, to some degree, spokespeople for this, to the people that they know. So, I mean, get them hooked. That's what it's all about. It's a smart move.
I think so too. I wonder if the test drivers like also will do all the like don't make me pull over and that sort of thing, or like put a barrier up. Put a barrier up.
Sit back. Your seatbelt isn't on around your shoulder, and it needs to be. Burke has a really valid question. Do you have to talk to the human driver? Yeah, that's a really great question.
I don't know if this is designed for you, Burke. Like, I don't think you would like it.
Yeah, well, I think Burke would like it if it was actually autonomous and there was no human driver, though.
Yeah, I would like to talk to the test driver, I think.
Get their, pick their brain on it. So, yeah, maybe autonomous fleet in the future. Free rides everywhere. This is the future, right? Free rides everywhere. This is totally what Waymo is going to be all about.
No, I don't think so. In the future.
Should be, though. Jimmy Wales, the co-founder of Wikipedia, is tackling that pesky thing we like to call fake news by creating Wikitribune. It's a crowdfunded news publication with content chosen, fact-checked, and written up by unpaid community members and professional journalists. The new project is to be powered by Impossible, which is a service that was backed by Wales in 2013. They build tools for projects that they think are solving fundamental world problems. This, I think, would qualify for that. There's a countdown clock on wikitribune.com right now that indicates that the first issue should release in 29 days with 1 journalist hired so far. Very interesting goal here. It's to hire 10 journalists. All of their salary, the journalist's salary, would be paid by the contributing members. And Wales says they can over time present the numbers to those monthly supporters if they want to bring in a new journalist that say has a focus on a particular topic or beat or whatever. Bring them in so that they can hire more journalists as needed. And they plan on, being really transparent about everything, publishing their financials on a regular basis, being transparent about how the operation is working, and it's all published only when someone approves the changes. So it's in some ways, very similar to how Wikipedia operates, but in a journalist sort of way. And as you can see there, Guy Kawasaki, Jeff Jarvis, and Lily Cole are some of the advisors on this project. So I imagine you're probably going to hear Jeff Jarvis talk a lot about this. I guess this would be tomorrow on This Week in Google.
I really want this to work, and yet I do not think it will.
Oh, really?
I don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Matthew Ingram had a great piece about it. He said it would be really difficult to scale. Like, it's like Patreon, right? I mean, you believe in the content, you want to be a patron, and you support it, and that works on a small individual level for very specific things, I think. But I think this would be really difficult. There's so many great things about Wikipedia. There's some real problems with Wikipedia. Most of the editors are over 50, white men. And so it's not really it's not this utopia of everybody has a voice that, a lot of people don't have a voice. So I would hope that they'd be able to see, okay, that's what's become of Wikipedia. Let's try very hard. Obviously, they have a woman. So, but those 3 advisors are all white. So, I would hope that there would be some more diversity. I don't know who Lily Cole is, but she didn't look like she was over 50. I can't say for sure. So just a different, I want this to work, but I am worried that it won't. Medium is trying something similar. They now have a subscription program, so you can pay to be a Medium member, and then that money goes to journalists. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Guy Kawasaki also brings a little bit of diversity.
True, that is true.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very curious to see how it works for sure. I do understand what you're saying, though. There's this question, and Matthew Ingram kind of posed this in his write-up as well. There's this question around the idea that when you're talking about fake news, let's say, or how journalism is kind of in this very critical point of trying to prove why facts matter and all that kind of stuff. That's something that actually a lot of other journalists and people in the industry care insanely about, and that's part of why this comes out, is coming to fruition. But how much do just regular potential contributors, how much does that matter to them, to the degree that they would buy into this idea and contribute on a monthly basis to further the project? But then at the same time, I think about it, and a lot of people pay a monthly subscription to things they care about, and this would be just bring them more into the process. So I think it's a fresh take on something that probably needs a fresh take. You know what I mean? There's a lot of problems right now. There's a very big trust issue that people have with journalism. Let's see if this works. Maybe this is the future model. You know?
Well, there's also certain kind of people contribute, and I don't really know exactly who those people are. I know Nick Hua writes a podcast newsletter called Hot Pod. If you're interested in podcasts, as I am, you should subscribe. It's a great podcast. And he talks about how Bill O'Reilly, I think today, launched a podcast, because he got kicked out of Fox. And so he launched a podcast that was, I think it's a $5 subscription fee. And what he said was that conservatives are more likely to pay subscription fees than liberals are. I don't know why that is. But like nobody pays for the New York Times. I mean, some people do, but on a majority, they have a lot of trouble monetizing. And that is, left-leaning publication. So I don't know. I mean, that'll be interesting to tell. And then I don't know. I haven't read that anywhere else that conservatives are more likely to pay subscription fees. So if anyone knows statistics on that, then email us at tnt@twit.tv and let me know if I'm just totally wrong or if that's something that's well known.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear that myself.
In today's flying car news, Uber says they'll be taking ride-hailing to the skies by 2020. That's when the company says they'll have their first public demo of a fleet of electric planes that you can hail with an app. At the Uber Elevate Summit today, the company said they're already in discussions with NASA and the National Air Traffic Control Association about the logistics of flying cars not crashing into each other, which is key when you talk about flying cars. Also, how cool do they look? Also key. So it's a 3-day summit in Dallas meant to discuss all things VTOL. That's vertical takeoff and landing, as I've learned a few months along with you. Some people out there, with your help, who taught me what VTOL meant. Uber isn't building the technology, so that begs the question, like, how can they say it's going to be 2020 when they're not in charge of actually building the flying cars?
Yeah, that's a good question. They're working with, let's see here. Well, they're working to bring this to Dallas-Fort Worth, also Dubai, just for starters. They're working with Hillwood Properties to find sites to build the vertiports, also known as launch pads. They call it vertiports with a capital V. And then 5 aircraft manufacturers are in contract negotiations right now for design and production. So I imagine part of those negotiations is, if we have the money to throw at this, can you get it done in time? Hopefully they can. I don't know. I'm curious to see. I mean, it's just a helicopter, right? I mean, it really does look like a helicopter, but that's where my limited knowledge of flying cars apparently comes in. But, hey, this is Uber saying, trust us. Come into the skies with Uber.
Right.
And I don't know how I feel about that right now.
Yeah, a company that has traditionally cut corners whenever possible, like run roughshod over regulations. Sure, I want you to take to the skies and be in charge of airspace management. Of course. What could possibly go wrong?
Fly the friendly skies with Uber. Not friendly at all. Most big technology companies would love to penetrate the Chinese market, but it's difficult, what with much Chinese government oversight and regulation over how companies are even allowed to run their businesses inside the country. It's pretty strict there. Netflix tried to open shop in China, but were blocked by Chinese regulators last year for a number of reasons. Now, Netflix says it has closed a content agreement with iQIYI. It's a Beijing-based video streaming service that will bring Netflix original programming into the country. I have it here for the first time, but then I saw that they had actually tested House of Cards with another service in China, and I guess it did really well. It was very popular before it ended up getting pulled, I think based on some content reasons, you know, I don't know if it's violence or what it is, but so I don't know. This could be a nice way in to kind of establish some sort of a brand recognition, brand identity in the country, while Netflix continues to work on bringing the service in full to China.
I think this is China is an elusive goal that I'm sure they're pretty psyched to get in there any way they can. The Wall Street Journal said China has 75 million people who pay for online video content. That was in 2016, and that was up from 22 million in 2015. So 75 million up from 22 million. That's a lot of millions. A lot of people paying for content. And incomes are rising in China. People have a lot of disposable income. Disposable income means Netflix, I guess. So it's I also, when researching this story, Tony told me how to say it, and I'm going to practice now. iQIYI. iQIYI. I also have the characters here if anyone's interested in seeing those.
You'll be working on writing those also, right?
Yes,
there will be a test on Friday.
There will be a test.
Conducted by Tony Wang.
Yeah, so House of Cards is great. Everyone in the world should get to see it.
Everyone. And CEO Reed Hastings had said last year when kind of things fell apart in trying to get into China that the full launch, unlikely in the short term, that they would work on a content deal. That's apparently where we're at right now. And if you didn't know, iQIYI is a subsidiary of Baidu, which is China's major search engine. So there you go.
Yes, and I means love in Japan. It means I love Netflix. That's what I mean. Just kidding. That's not what it means. Today's TED conference is being taken over by robots, so says Axios and Recode. The conference began yesterday, and a famous dancer and choreographer performed with a robot on stage. In a talk by the CEO and founder of Boston Dynamics, we learned that Spot, its dog robot, is already being used to deliver packages in Boston. Meanwhile, Boston Dynamics humanoid robot has been busy losing weight. The robot has gone from 375 pounds to 165 pounds with a pure paleo diet.
Yeah, what are they feeding it?
Boston Dynamics calls it a more organic design, pared down only to the essential movements. Also, Japanese AI expert Noriko Arai said she built a robot capable of writing a 600-word essay on the rise and fall of maritime trade in Southeast Asia in the 17th century. With the essay, the robot was able to apply and got accepted into several Japanese schools.
See? We need robots to understand that when they put their minds to it, they can accomplish anything.
Yes. It's exciting. We will dance with robots, said TED founder Chris Anderson, or they will simply throw us off the stage. So we'll see.
I didn't know where to go with this one because it's just like robot. And we talk about robots all the time on the show, but it did kind of like trigger a thought of the future with robots, because robots are obviously they're very capable already, but we know that they have a ways to go before they reach the same capabilities in many different ways as humans. But like, I think everyone agrees they'll probably get there at some point, and probably sometime in the foreseeable future. What about a future where we, as people who just want to live enjoyable lives, instead of investing in the stock market, or instead of investing in mutual funds or real estate or whatever, like another investment avenue is investing in a robot to do a very specific job for you, or playing, in this case, Five Finger Filet, which, why would you ever do this? Although it's a robot, it probably won't miss, but my goodness, that looks scary. But anyways, could you see that? Like a future where we actually, it's an investment for us to buy a robot that can perform a very specific task to work for us.
Like a washing machine. Like we buy a washing machine to wash our clothes, so we don't have to spend time doing that? That's
a very simple task. But what if I could invest a large sum of money now into a robot that could come and do a show for me in my name?
Don't do that.
Well, I'm not going to.
Okay.
But in my name, so that frees me up to like go sit on a beach somewhere because my robot's back doing my job for me, making me money.
Right. I think that's what we call the industrial age, right? Like
yeah, but not on an individual basis. But let's get there, because then we're all on the beach enjoying ourselves and our robots are working for us.
Right. Well, like
and then they're going to rise up and they're going to kill us.
Yeah. I think also there's a semantics problem, because like, we know when I talked about the robot that wrote the essay, that's really an AI. Like, I think I enjoy calling AI robots, but really they're a difference. Like, we think of a robot as doing the robot. If you can't do the robot, you're not a robot.
The robot that wrote that essay was actually a robot at a computer going.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, no, you're right. It probably was just an algorithm. Burke had a great point, but it fell on the ground.
Oh, no. We need a robot to pick up his
we need a card picking up robot. Who knows where it went? Oh, Burkebot found it. It says, then you disappear. That's what happens when you train a robot to be your servant.
Did that fall off, or did a robot just grab it and don't tell them?
I mean, the computer kind of is a robot. The computer probably didn't want anyone to see it. I'm sorry I asked you to pick that back up, Burke.
Drew Nielsen says, what about calling it a bot? Yeah, that's confusing too. Like a bot, I think of a bot as something that's just responding to you. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
After the break, are women evil? Google is working hard to find the right answer for you. But first, let's take a minute to thank Box, the sponsor of this episode. Centralize your files and keep your team on track with Box. Box provides secure cloud files sharing and storage. They also offer you one clean place to collaborate. Everyone's sort of looking for that. Like, you don't want to use that, and I use that, and I use that. And what do you use? So just use Box. Edit, comment, share, and approve files from any device so you can simplify your workflow. You'll also have the latest version on hand, making it incredibly easy to collaborate with your team wherever you are. Preview full documents in more than 120 file types, including PDF and PSD, without downloading. You'll receive real-time notifications when edits are made, and Box will save earlier versions in case you need to go back. We all need to go back and see the history. It's awesome that you can do that. Use the Box app to stay productive wherever you are. Save files for offline access. Instantly send photos or videos from your iPhone or your iPad directly to Box with Box Capture. Keep your desktop, web, and mobile content synced with Box Sync. Thousands of integrated apps like DocuSign, Google Docs, and Salesforce. With Box.com, there's no need to send email attachments. Securely share large files with team members, customers, or external agencies using a link or a custom URL. You can control permissions, set expiration dates, and secure files with password protection. They've got you covered. You can remotely log out a user and delete Box data on any lost or stolen device. Meet your organization's content governance and compliance standards with Box. That includes FedRAMP, FIPS, FINRA, and HIPAA compliance, and more. Solve data residency requirements with data storage in Europe, Asia, and Australia. And use Box Platform to create apps that improve customer experiences and streamline business processes. Box offers individual, business, and enterprise plans. More than 41 million users and 59,000 businesses, including 60% of the Fortune 500, trust Box to manage content in the cloud. So stop relying on IT to build workflow. Box empowers users to take ownership of their work. Transform the way your business collaborates and work as one with Box.com. Visit Box.com for a free 2-week trial. That's Box.com, and we thank Box for their support.
So Google announced today that it's making some changes to how its service tackles things like fake news and offensive search content, among other things. Joining us to discuss Project Owl is Danny Sullivan from Search Engine Land. How's it going, Danny?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to get you back. So first of all, Project Owl is, you say, a 3-pronged approach. Tell us a little bit about what Google is launching exactly today.
Sure. Well, they've taken notice of the complaints about fake news, these bizarre featured snippets that can sometimes come up and tell you that President Obama is planning a coup or that women are evil, suggested searches that can send people into these bizarre and strange worlds and sometimes simply be offensive in and of themselves. And, it's been a real PR nightmare for them, not to mention just a search quality issue, period. So this whole thing that they dubbed Project Owl has been their internal effort to come up with a way of improving things. And there may be other things that come down the line, but the stuff that they announced today, as you said, are 3 prongs. One of the things is that when you do a search and Google starts to give you those suggestions that come up, what Google calls autocomplete, you're going to get a new form if you want to, where you can report whether or not something seems to be harmful or offensive or sexual in nature, and just give them more feedback about that so they can use it to refine the results and come up with an algorithmic way, they hope, to get rid of offensive stuff and make these things more useful. The other feedback form they have is for featured snippets, so that if you get one of these strange answers that comes up and you're going, whoa, what is happening here? You have an easier way to report to Google that something's seriously wrong with this, with a lot of the same kind of options, whether something is potentially offensive or harmful or simply inaccurate. And then the biggest thing is really that they're hoping to increase the quality of their search results. And they're going to give more weight to authoritative content, so that if you find yourself doing a search and for some reason it's in one of these odd areas, did the Holocaust really happen, that it seems like they're going to be less sensitive to giving you pages that actually seem to answer that question, even though they might not be right, and more answers from pages that are authoritative in nature, even if they're not directly addressing the question.
So those predictions, the autocomplete, I guess, is what I always thought of them. Was someone gaming those, or were those actually things that people were searching for? And then if they change them, isn't it sort of changing the idea of a prediction? I mean, if people are actually searching for that, do you think it's okay for Google to be changing it?
They are indeed real searches that people actually conduct, and people do searches because they have misconceptions that they actually believe, or they've heard about misconceptions and they actually, or questions, and they want to get answers to those sorts of things. In a very small situations, it could be that people are gaming them, but for the most part, this is just really natural searches that people are doing, and they can be an unfortunate reflection on our society, but that's what Google's showing, and that's one of the reasons they've struggled with them, for exactly what you asked. Well, if we get rid of these suggestions, aren't we censoring what people are actually looking for? But the purpose of autocomplete wasn't to kind of open your mind to completely unusual things that might take you off the beaten track. The idea was it was going to speed up your searches, so that if you were typing in, WEA, it would say, well, you probably want weather, so we'll help you get to that. It probably wasn't that, oh, you typed in WEA, we think you're looking for whether why Republicans hate Democrats. I'm this top of my head type of thing, but the idea is that they're really not trying to reinforce stereotypes or offend people with these sorts of things. It's getting back to what they were supposed to be, which is getting you to popular and common kinds of searches that save you time in conducting your searches. Now, if you want to do some of these searches, you aren't prevented from doing it. It's just that they're not kind of helping you along in doing that. You can go ahead and continue typing this stuff, and you're perhaps not getting detoured into areas or having conceptions created by stuff just because other people have questions. You do these searches, and then you see something, you go, oh, I didn't know that was true, and it might not be true. It's just that people are questioning it, and then it can cause you to have these kinds of misconceptions yourself before you've even done any research.
In reading your piece, I didn't realize, you've written a lot about this sort of stuff, especially in the last few months, but I didn't really realize how influential our queries are when we open up a search box within Google for instructing Google's search product how it returns results to us. I just kind of always figured the algorithm is based on the the sites that it's trawling through and rating based on visits. I never really considered the fact that just our action of going in there and searching for certain things, and if there's a lot of people going in there and searching for that same certain thing, whether it be true or not, actually influences the results that you might get. So yeah, this really seems like a big change to how Google's search product works. I imagine Google was aware of the potential for abuse, if you want to call it that, for a long time before all of this fake news stuff started happening late last year. Is there any reason why Google didn't try and tackle this sooner?
Because they really didn't see it as that big of a problem. These issues, they really do go back for years. You can pick an example, and you can find unusual featured snippets that we had written about in 2014, and Google really didn't do anything, or auto suggestions that go back to 2011, and people are like, why are you doing this sort of thing? What's really changed is that they kind of viewed these as, well, we know there's issues, but there's such a small amount. In fact, they even put a percentage to it today and said that this is like a quarter of 1% of all the searches that they process. And so when they looked at the scale of other things that they're trying to address, there were bigger issues that they thought were higher on the agenda. Stuff like outright spam that pollutes popular queries that lots and lots of people are doing, or low quality content that again can impact really popular queries. And I think it's been an eye-opener, and they described it, when I was talking with them, as being shell-shocked when they've had this spate of articles that have come out over the past few months that have really highlighted this. Because, we can look at these things and you say, this is crazy. And to, I think outside observers, it doesn't necessarily matter to them whether this is a small percentage or not of Google's overall searches. It just seems wrong. It is wrong. And, people want it fixed. And it looks like Google doesn't care, or they're not in control of their search engine. And that ultimately is both a bad thing from a search quality perspective in doing their job, as well as just a terrible PR nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
I like how you call it. You call them problematic searches, which is good, because everyone who searches for did the Holocaust really happen isn't necessarily a Holocaust denier or a racist or an anti-Semite. They might actually be looking for to do a scholarly piece about Holocaust deniers or something like that. So it's good. It's not good. It's bad. They're problematic. And in what way do you think that the Google Home has really exacerbated this problem for Google?
Well, that's been another thing I think that's kind of accelerated their realization they have to do something. With Google Home, you ask it a question and it comes back with an answer. And most of the time, it's amazing. I always go back to this one case where I'm at my refrigerator and I have it open and I see some grapes and I can hear my guinea pig squeaking. So I'm like, hey, can guinea pigs eat grapes? And it's like, yes, guinea pigs can eat grapes. Just make sure they're the seedless variety. And it's awesome, right? Because it's found this answer on the web. But when you then do something to like say, are women evil? And it comes back and it says, women all have a little bit of evil. Women all are a little bit of a prostitute. You're like, what are you talking about?
Every woman has a little evil in her. Women don't love men.
Okay, Google Home, go away. I don't want to hear any more of it.
And that it's just a terrible illustration when Google is literally speaking these horrible things. It's putting voice to this stuff. And so, when you have this new device you hope is going to be in everyone's homes, it's just even more of a terrible perception problem as well as a search issue.
Yeah, and they've, obviously this is part of the changes to featured snippets, which appears in Assistant, appears in Search, but it also, as you say, appears in Google Home. And there's a way to report that, at least in the browser, the handheld device. Is there a way to tell your Google Home when they give you one that's problematic? Report that because that's really bad. Is there any way to do that?
There is. I just don't know how to make it work yet. They told me, I literally have an email. Let me see if they tell me. I don't even see the answer yet. So when I talked with them last week, they said, hey, by the way, there's a way you can even give feedback through Google Home. You can't fill out a giant form, but you can inform us if there's something wrong. And then I was trying it today, and I couldn't figure out how to make that happen in any intuitive way to me. So I've emailed them and said, can you tell me how? And I'll update my article with those instructions when I get them.
Yeah, I'm very curious on that one. So you conclude that the changes in your kind of playing around with the search engine after this news improve search results for the query, did the Holocaust happen, but that Bing's results are still very bad. Do you envision competing search engines kind of following suit down this path, really working to improve their search product in the same ways or similar ways that Google's doing right now?
I think so. Bing has largely escaped this attention, in part, first of all, because when it was first coming out, I think their results typically were better in some of the examples that would come up. They still had issues, and you could find these kinds of issues, but Bing would tend to put the authoritative site first, so that if you were asking a question about the Holocaust, you were getting, say, a Wikipedia page, not a page from a white supremacist site. So I think Google's flipped that around. So Bing doesn't have, so it doesn't have this "your first result is terrible so often" problem. I can't say that conclusively, by the way, because there's just so many searches you can do, and you can find exceptions to everything. Sure. But I certainly think that Bing will feel the pressure of, well, we don't want to have these kinds of issues as well. But Bing kind of escapes it because nobody bothers really to check or compare them. It's Google that people really focus on the most.
Yeah, absolutely. So Google's in, I would say, a very unique position when it comes to companies the size that Google is. Its core product doesn't only make its, they're not just striving to make their product better, but they are realizing that they actually influence millions upon millions of people based on how their product operates and what people see when they type in a couple letters and it comes back with something they didn't intend, but maybe that opens their eyes to a new thought, and that can change the world in certain ways, good or bad. How unique is this scenario, do you think, for companies the size of Google, that they have this much influence over how people react based on some feedback like this?
I don't think there's a whole lot of comparisons. The other big example that comes to mind, obviously, is Facebook, which has been dealing with this problem in their own way. With the difference is with Facebook, you have a case where you can have fake news or problematic content go viral and spread very rapidly and be reinforced because people tend to be in their own bubbles. So they've got challenges on how do we sort of stop this virality and how do we kind of fact check people so that they get that information as they kind of stumble upon it. It's different with Google, where these kinds of things don't go viral. It's just that you have people who maybe been doing searches and are diligent or whatever, trying to understand what's happening. And, they've got that research component. You want to make sure you have the right research when they actually go looking. But I try to struggle to think of other companies that are like that. You can potentially see maybe an Amazon in terms of some of the reviews that they get. That I don't know if we have much of a fake news issue, but certainly we can get fake reviews that happen, over there. And you also have politically motivated stuff that goes on. And, I think Twitter may have to deal with it to some degree as well. But anytime I think you have something where there's a mass audience, you have a potential for these kinds of issues to come up.
Well, why do you think Amazon doesn't have this similar problem with the Amazon Echo? I mean, I was, when you were talking about how to correct an answer to the Google Home, I was just looking at my Amazon Echo app, and it said, did it ask what you wanted? Did it do what you wanted? And you can report something. So, I mean, why? I don't actually even know where their search results come from.
Amazon doesn't have the problem because Echo is actually not as smart as Google Home, or not as ambitious. So, Echo, and I have both the devices, and I love them both for different things. And I love the Echo because when I ask it for information about things that are very delineated or fact-checked, it'll know, like what's the weather, what's the stocks, give me my headlines. This is stuff where they're kind of carefully constructed data sources that are going into it. And so they have a lot of trust there. But the downside is if I tried to ask it that question about like what my guinea pig can eat, and I've done this, it doesn't know. It doesn't know why the sky is blue. It just doesn't know so many things because it just doesn't have the data to back into it. Whereas Google Home is tapping into the entire web. And so its advantage over the Echo is if you want a device that you can ask all sorts of questions to and get answers, it's much more capable of doing that. But that comes with the downside of, a much greater chance that it's going to make a mistake because, there's no sort of human vetting of all the stuff that goes in. In the end, it's really a computer making its best guess.
Right. Danny Sullivan, searchengineland.com. Danny, it's always a pleasure getting you on the show. Thanks for taking some time out to talk with us today. Tell people where they can follow all your work online.
You can find us at searchengineland.com or our companion site, marketingland.com, for marketing information. And, if you want to keep up with whatever crazy thing I'm tweeting, I'm just Danny Sullivan at Twitter.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Danny.
Thanks, Danny.
See you at Google I/O.
Thanks for having me. Sounds good. Take care. Bye-bye.
Right, take care. Bye.
All right, we got some feedback. Now, Mark Zuckerberg was not watching the show last night. He might not have been watching. If he was watching, he didn't write in when we played the voice. I know, and we don't know for sure. But when we played that voicemail about prescription VR, he hasn't. We asked him to weigh in, but he wasn't listening. But Michael was. Here's his response. I thought you'd be curious to know a lab at MIT made an algorithm to pre-distort the image on a screen to correct for vision the same way glasses do. This allows someone who would usually wear glasses to view a screen and see a clear image without their glasses or contacts in. This is a software solution that could probably be integrated into a virtual reality pretty easily. I could envision an application that had you adjust some sliders to tweak the algorithm until the image you are viewing on your VR headset looked clear. Not only would you be able to use VR without glasses, but the VR headset could probably tell you your prescription every time you use the device.
Whoa.
So we have a link to that study and a little video as well from MIT. So we'll put that in the show notes as always if you want to check that out.
That is really cool. I was thinking as you were reading the email, I was thinking maybe it would cut down on the resolution Because I mean, blurry. When I think of blurry, I think of diffuse, and all of those pixels, let's say in this example, being spread out. And so that when they were put together, maybe that would reduce the resolution. But that's a really cool idea. I never thought of that before. That seems to make perfect sense to me. And then here's actually a real quick feedback bit. Alex House tweeted us about Ian Thompson's comment yesterday regarding how difficult it would be for everyone to read the terms of service for everything they use all the time. Alex pointed us to tosdr.org, or Terms of Service Didn't Read. It's a community-driven rating service for TOS. Community thumbs up or thumbs down. Everybody gets in there and basically rates the terms of service for different services for you. And there's even a browser add-on to make it all easier. So if you don't have the time to read the terms of service, or like Ian said, what did he say? Like however many years, 20 some odd years?
70 years, I think.
What? Okay, well, you definitely don't have that time to read the terms of service. At least use this, because then there's people in there who are looking at this stuff closer and as a community saying, here are the things to look out for when you're agreeing to terms to a TOS of a particular company or service.
I love that.
Yeah, I love it too. TNT's fan of the day is Herb Ballou, TNT's resident pilot, who sent us this picture on Twitter saying, "Thanks, guys, for the tech news as I wander around Narita, Japan. Every time he sends these pictures in, I'm just jealous. I'm filled with jealousy."
Why? We're going too. Look, there we are. We're there.
Oh, there we are. It's as
Wherever,
if we were totally there with Herb.
Wherever you go, we go.
Yeah, maybe Herb, maybe sometime land in Petaluma, and then we'll hop on your plane and you can take us to Narita, Japan. We're not asking too much, right?
Nope.
Okay. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup. Post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we'll find it.
Now it's time for a new segment, Sorry Not Sorry.
Not sorry.
Our daily apology segment, and hopefully we'll find one every day. Remember that Face app?
Yeah, I remember that.
We were very fond of it for about 30 seconds. It would make you look old or make you look like a different gender. And then there was a filter that was hot. Apparently, to make you look hot, they just whitened you up. They made you look whiter. After people rightly complained, the makers of the app removed the filter. So they changed it from hot to spark. But then they removed it and they apologized. I think they're sorry. I think they were very sorry. So they also blamed the neural network, sort of. So maybe they weren't really sorry.
Right, because if I remember with Face App, it was all about, I mean, it's, neural network, artificial intelligence. They trained it with a certain series of images. And then for each of those algorithms, you train it with a set of images that of people who look old. And then you put it in the old bucket, and then you apply the filter to the picture that you upload, and it'll take what it learned of those old pictures. So really it comes down to what data set did they train it with in Hot, or later renamed Spark, or later removed from the app? What was the data set that they fed into it for that particular training to happen?
My guess is attractive white people.
Apparently so. And therein, now that I'm thinking about it now, therein lies the potential where they kind of went wrong, obviously.
Right. Its standards of beauty are different everywhere. And, I think, but there is a problem. And I commend all the people that tweeted about it, because not everyone thinks they look better by being whiter.
Absolutely not.
And and it's only been a year since remember the Bob Marley filter on Snapchat?
There have been a few of these that have cropped up here and there.
Yeah.
And then we were talking a little bit earlier in the office about Me Too. I think it was Me Too, not My Too, which was the Chinese app, kind of face filter app that's been around for years, is still around. And what it would do with, yes, that's Burke. But as you can see, part of what they would do with the app is they'd lighten your skin, they'd make your eyes bigger. And, in certain cultures, I know that there's a cultural trend in China, as an example, where white skin, big eyes is considered, at least to a certain degree, people strive for that as a standard of beauty, let's say. I don't know how else to put that. That doesn't apply to everyone. And different cultures, different standards as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, we were discussing this story before, and as Nate said, the whole college dissertations have been written on this topic. When I went to the African American History Museum in D.C., they had a whole section that like in a glass case, like whitening creams, like from the 40s or the 30s, just like things. They were like bleaching your skin, painful things. So yes, a lot more could be said on this topic. If you want to weigh in, you can TNT at twit.tv. We would love to hear from you. Absolutely.
TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show, like we just said, TNT at twit.tv, or you can give it to us in your own words by leaving us a voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW. And you can find us on Twitter. We're at Tech News Today TV.
And join us on our subreddit. That's technewstoday.reddit.com. We check it every day. We check many sources. That is one of them. And you can subscribe to the show. Please, please, please subscribe to the show. Even if you watch it on our stream, even if you're watching live right now, also subscribe, because someday you might not be available and we want you to subscribe. We don't ever want you to miss a show. Twit.tv/TNT. You can get the audio or the video version. And if you want to tweet at me, I am at Megan Maroney.
And I am at Jason Howell. That's right. Thanks to our technical director. I don't know. Thanks to our technical director, Brian Burnett. Thanks to Burke for helping out in the studio. That is Burke right there. Who just said, someone in the chat, the Gem Doctor just said, using Burke as a standard for beauty is something I never thought I'd hear, Jason.
I do want the Burke filter. Please, Snapchat. If you're going to do anything, the Burke filter.
We need the Burke filter. Thanks to Kevin for editing the show. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.